Hey everybody, got a pretty interesting product to talk to you about here today. This is a portable espresso maker from a company called Brevoy. They actually sent it to me for review, so we're going to find out today if it's any good. But it's an interesting concept. It has a 9,000 milliamp hour internal rechargeable battery, which according to Brevoy will make 6 to 7 cups of espresso, even if you have to have it preheat the water, which it does do on its own if you need it to. But the other thing that's neat about it is it handles all kinds of different types of espresso. You can do single and double shot with pre-ground espresso. You can actually use Nespresso capsules, which is kind of nifty for on the go if you're in like a hotel or you just want something that's no fuss. And the other cool thing is that it's actually IPX6 waterproof, supposedly, which means that it can handle like jets from any direction, you know, like rain. You can probably rinse it under a faucet, even though they tell you not to in the manual, which is kind of interesting. The price is $180 MSRP, but you can usually get it for about $150. And they also sent me a discount code for you guys, and it will also support the channel if you use it. So stick around. We'll see if it's any good. If it looks like a cool product for you or for anybody for a gift, then you can check that out. All right, a quick run through the basics on this thing here. What do you get in the box? You get the espresso maker, which is it's got a 9,000 milliamp hour rechargeable battery, according to Brevoy, with 50 milliliters of water being heated by the espresso maker. It should last for about 6 to 7 cups per charge, which is pretty good. And then, of course, you also get your double and single espresso basket with also the tamper and scoop for double and single. You get this little funnel here to help you funnel the espresso into it without spilling it everywhere. That's just the bottom portafilter or group head style thing. That's the cap, which also doubles as your cup. This is the Nespresso pod basket, which actually, accepts these natively. You don't have to actually buy anything extra for that, which is pretty nifty. That's the distribution tool. And of course the charging cable does not come with the charging brick, but who needs that these days? About this, by the way, I've already kind of had it in my hands here. It feels really substantial, quite nice. This is obviously well made. The build quality is pretty good. I noticed some gaps in a couple spots here. Nothing really to write home about. This is a little bit, where is it? Right there. You can see this opening. I don't know if you can tell. It's not quite the same on the other side. Worries me slightly, maybe, but this cap goes on top, so it's probably not a big deal. The only reason I'd be a little concerned is that they say it is IPX6 waterproof, which we're going to test actually in a little bit. We'll get back to that. So check this out. Up here at the top, you've got this little removable cap here. And then under that, you've got, can you see the lines here that indicate the markings? So this is actually where the water heats, and it goes through this little drain here through this device. And there apparently are dynamically 9 to 20 bars of pressure, depending on what type of espresso you're brewing, whether it's single or double, or whether it's an espresso pod. And then out at the bottom here comes the finished product, which actually I believe brews directly into this cup. So we're going to give this a shot, and we're going to see how this works. This is all very nice plastic, by the way. I mean, this is high quality stuff. I really like the way this feels. This is supposedly one of the most versatile products on the market with respect to these functions. Certainly looks to be the case. And if it lives up to its promise, I think it's going to be a really nifty device to have around. All right. And at about 1 pound and 7.5 ounces, it's pretty lightweight too. Let's see how big it is. I like to measure these things, even though they give you measurements. It's about 9 inches tall and roughly a little more than 3 inches in diameter. Pretty small. You could definitely stuff it in a bag. I know probably most people would like to have this in some kind of protective sheathing or whatever. It doesn't come with anything like that. But then again, it does feel pretty robust. I mean, I really think you'd be fine just stuffing this in just an area where there's nothing sharp next to it or something like that. And before we continue, let's just admire how cool these little things are. So this is the little double espresso pod. I mean, look at this. Really neatly made, really professionally made. Same with the single espresso pod. These just kind of pop right off. Really cool how compact all this stuff is. It's a cool idea for a product. So we're going to go ahead and try to make a double espresso using this. I'm going to grind the beans in advance, obviously, and I'll be right back. All right, so here we are outdoors, and I'm going to try to make some espresso. So let me give you a little tour of how this works. We put the water in up here. It's going to be room temperature water in this case, but it can be refrigerated as well, and it will heat it. Or, of course, you can already have it to the temperature you need, and this thing will brew almost immediately if you do that, and also brew almost 300 cups. If you have to do it with room temperature or refrigerated water, and it has to heat it on its own, it apparently can do anywhere between, I think it's 6 and 7 cups is what Brevoy says. So anyway, the water comes through here, goes down through this device and pressurizes, and then into here. And this is kind of like your portafilter, so to speak. And you've got this little guy, which is our double shot espresso basket. The water will come into here through this, into the espresso, through that, out of there, into this, and then down out of that. And it will go into whatever container you want it to go into. In this case, the cap normally serves as your cup when you're on the go, of course, but you can use whatever you want. So, and you just kind of stick it in there. So anyway, let's just give this a shot. Let's see how we can do this. They tell you to get 12 to 16 grams of fine ground espresso to work with. Well, I've already kind of got that ground in this case. Obviously, if you were on the go, you might also try an espresso pod because that's really easy and you don't have to mess with it. But I've got some at home here. Obviously, I use my Baratza grinder to grind this, and we're going to give this a shot and see how close we can get to maybe right in the middle of that range. That's pretty close. We'll do a little more here. Normally, you would use this scoop to kind of measure it out, and it would actually help you parcel it out to some degree. But in this case, I've kind of got this scale with me. Yep, 14.4 looks good to me. Let's go ahead and tamp this down. This serves as your tamper as well. Give it a good tamp. All right, there is our espresso. We're going to put the cap on here. See this? And we're going to take this guy, unscrew this, go into that, screw it back together, and up here at the top, we now have to put in, according to this, for a double shot of espresso, between 50 and 70 milliliters of water. So there's actually labels here, as you can see. I'm going to go somewhere right in between there, since I've got a right in between amount of espresso. All right, it's pretty good. It's about 60 milliliters. Put this cap back on, and now we're ready to brew. So since the water is not already preheated, we're going to hold this for 2 seconds. If it was preheated, we would actually press it twice, and it would immediately start brewing. So now it's heating, and you can see, I don't know how well you can see this outdoors, but the LED is lighting up. This indicates the progress for heating. That's 25% when it gets beyond this point anyway, I guess. And then it's 50% for the next light, 75%. And when it gets all the way to the top, it's 100%, which is about 92 degrees centigrade, which is close to optimal for espresso extraction. So I'm going to actually just let this sit in this while it's doing this, because it takes a long time. It takes a few minutes, 4 or 5 minutes, somewhere in that neighborhood. And it actually is pretty heavy, so it can get kind of annoying to hold it. So I'm just going to let it sit here, and we will fast forward to the end. And we are at the 75% mark here. It's getting close to being done. I will note that this thing is very quiet, for those of you who care about that kind of thing. A lot of outdoor noise here, actually. But in case you're like cohabitating or camping with somebody when you've got this thing, you really can't hear it heat the water. Obviously it takes a little bit of time as well, but it's nice and quiet. We'll see how loud extraction is. It's been about 5 minutes or so. So we're going to go ahead and take this out here and let this brew. Hey guys, sorry to interrupt, but I got a quick aside here. The manufacturer actually reached out to me, and you can in fact brew the espresso while the espresso maker is simply sitting in the cap, which means you can push the button, walk away for a few minutes, kind of ignore the thing, and then come back and you've got your espresso ready to go, which is pretty awesome. So anyway, enjoy the rest of the video and keep that in mind. See how this looks. Okay, and I forgot to measure the weight of this cap, so when we're done, I'll do that, and we'll see exactly how much espresso we got out of it. But this does look really good. Look at that. You can see that crema. I mean, this is the real deal. Okay, it's 68.3, including the cup, so we'll weigh that afterward without it. Let's give it a little taste. Yeah, that is most certainly delicious. This is far, far better than you could get from most any other source when you're on the go. And in fact, I would say it definitely rivals my home espresso machine, which is impressive. Obviously, I ground it using that, so there is that to have been said. But even with Nespresso pods, I would imagine this is probably a pretty great solution for on-the-go espresso. Yeah, just delicious. All right, in terms of cleanup here, when you're finished, you just kind of unscrew the bottom, and there's a fairly wet puck in here. And it is very hot, so you may want to give it a little time to cool down before you do this. But if you take this top off, you can see that stuff is coming out still down the bottom, down there. Oh, well, sorry. Well, there you go. There's your puck. And then up here at the top, there's always a little bit of water left in this, I've heard. My understanding is it probably has something to do with the slant here, which is fine. You just kind of pour it out and you're done. Pretty easy to clean. You can also, you're not supposed to put the body under running water if you're to believe the instruction manual, but the IPX6 rating suggests otherwise, so I think it's probably okay to do that. We'll test that in a little bit here, if you know what I mean. Okay, and this cup is 37.5 by itself, which means that we got about 31 grams, 31.2 grams of espresso out of the 14 point something grams of espresso grounds, which is a little more than double, and that's fine. It's actually pretty close to ideal. So again, this is all pretty impressive for a portable espresso maker, especially when it's something that's competing, otherwise normally with something like an AeroPress, which obviously cannot compete with this. All right, so let's tackle a couple of questions you might still have. First of all, can I make espresso in the rain? Yes. Can I make espresso while being sprayed directly with a hose? Yes. All right, so wrapping this up, let's do some pros and cons. And kind of starting with the pros here, let's ask the question, who is this product actually for? Well, first of all, if you're someone who is an espresso enthusiast, I don't need to convince you whether this product is for you. You've seen what it can do. It makes espresso, and it does so pretty much anywhere with its 9,000 milliamp hour battery. It's a cool idea for a product that I didn't know existed until pretty recently, and it definitely fills a gap. It definitely produces good enough espresso to where you're going to be happy with it on the go, whereas previously you would have had to settle. But if you're buying it for a gift for someone else, who is this for? Is this for the person who's putting cream and sugar in their coffee? No, of course not. This is for someone who really appreciates the quality of espresso, the taste of coffee, and is not disguising it with other things. It's for an enthusiast, right? This is for someone who's grinding their own beans and maybe has their own espresso maker in their house. And when they're on the go, they just don't have anything that meets the needs that they have on the go. So that's what this is for. Now, if you're on a trip, what are you going to do? You're going to go get pre-ground coffee on Sunday and then use it through Saturday? No, because if you're an enthusiast, you already know it loses a lot of its potency. And you start to get less flavor even after just 30 minutes of grinding the beans. So what are you going to do? You're probably going to grind your own beans or take Nespresso pods with you. And it's your choice with this product. That's the coolest thing because it comes with this Nespresso pod processor here and this little bucket for the single and double shots. They actually have portable grinders as well. You can get a portable conical burr grinder for around $30 starting MSRP. On Amazon, they make a million of them. So there are definitely lots of options designed to fit in cup holders, which I really do like that design here. I'm kind of merging into the second pro with some of this conversation, and that is the versatility. I like that it can do both Nespresso and ground coffee. I like the design of this. I think it's a clever design. It's very ergonomic, and it fits pretty much anywhere. Like I said, you can stuff it in a bag. No, it doesn't come with a carrying case. Yes, you can buy one separately. But you don't really necessarily need it. It feels pretty robust. It feels pretty sturdy to me. It also has reasonably good battery life. 6 to 7 cups on a single charge, I think, is a good design. It's a pretty round number there. It's a pretty nice number because you can easily get 2 to 3 days of espresso out of it without even charging it. And it does take a little while to charge, but you can definitely charge it overnight. It's no big deal at all. So even just charging it once every couple nights is perfectly adequate. And of course, if you have preheated water, you don't have to even worry about that. You could easily go for a long, long time making espresso with this without it running out of batteries. So I do also like the fact that it's IPX6 waterproof, which of course we tested and we was successful in surviving that test. So that's neat. That means you can make espresso pretty much anywhere. I mean, honestly, like in inclement weather, when you're on the go, when you're camping, like I said, when, anywhere you want. I mean, of course, you can also rinse it under a faucet and it will probably survive that. So that's cool too. And then the price I think is pretty reasonable. I mean, with the discount anyway, I think $180 MSRP is a bit steep, but since you can almost always get it for $150 or less, and with the discount code I'm going to provide you in just a minute, even less than that, I think that's a great price, and it would make a really good gift for someone, something that a lot of people don't know exists, and a lot of people would not purchase for themselves, which is I think what makes a great gift. But I think would be something really neat to get. I think you'd be excited if you're an espresso enthusiast and you unpack this thing, think about using it on trips and things like that. So a few cons here, and these are mostly nitpicks and the things I think could be better. First of all, cleanup is a little bit tricky. I mean, it can be, not with the espresso pods, it's pretty easy with those. You just kind of pop them out and then rinse the thing out. If you're on the go, like using bottled water or something would be perfectly fine, I think. But with the single and double shot baskets, it's definitely a little bit messy. The pucks are pretty wet because it doesn't suck any of that moisture back out, obviously. I mean, where's it going to go? There's no drain. There's no, disposal anywhere on this thing. So you got to keep that in mind. And it's pretty hot too. So you almost have to let it sit for a bit before you clean it up, unless you want to burn yourself, or you're just really careful with it. So it takes a while to charge. I mean, whatever. Again, you kind of expect that given, how big the battery is in this thing. But that kind of, segues into something else I would like to see in the future. It'd be really neat if in like a V2.0, they had the option of using this in a pinch as a portable battery for like your phone or your laptop even, or something like that. I mean, it could definitely provide some power. I mean, most phone batteries are about half the size of this. So that would be a pretty cool little bonus feature to have, and it would make it a even more versatile product to have on the go. The LEDs, I think, could be a little brighter. You saw them earlier in my video that outdoors, they're kind of hard to see. Indoors, they're perfectly fine, but that's a very small nitpick. And then the last thing I want to mention is on my particular unit anyway, I did have some minor build quality inconsistencies. This is probably to be expected. I've reviewed laptops for a long, long time and other high-tech small products. And they all have build quality inconsistencies, and there's nothing perfect out there. It is really difficult to design at scale and manufacture at scale and have everything perfect. The IPX6 waterproof rating concerns me slightly, like I mentioned, because of those build quality concerns or build quality inconsistencies, but it's nothing really major. It's just worth mentioning. So that's pretty much it for the cons. Overall, what are my thoughts on this product? Like I said, I think it would make a fantastic gift if it's within the price range you're looking for. And I think if you're buying it for yourself, look, if you take trips periodically and you're an espresso enthusiast, you're not going to get much better espresso on the go than this thing provides, especially with the versatility and the ease of brewing that it does. I mean, obviously it takes a while for the water to heat. I've mentioned that many times, but you're not going to get around that. There's not a lot of products out there that do anything even close to what this thing does. And it's a very well-designed product. I mean, it's easy to use. The one-button design is really cool. Overall, I'm impressed. I like it, and I find myself planning to use it on future trips. So take that for what it's worth.